Hi, thank you for streaming one of our latest messages here at Mountain Lake Church. We hope you enjoyed the message. Please come back again very, very soon. We know that life change stories happen. They happen every day. And at Mountain Lake Church, we want to hear about your life change story. If you'd like to share your story, please visit us at mountainlake.tv and click on the story button. You can also find service locations as well as times. And if you can't come to see us in person, please know that we stream our services every Sunday at 9, 10:30, and noon. We look forward to seeing you this weekend.
We are in the middle of a series called James. If you've got your Bibles, go to James chapter 2. And we started this series off a couple of weeks ago, and here's what we said. We said that you would love James if you've ever thought to yourself, the Bible is just way too complicated to understand. You're going to love James. You're going to love James if on January 1st you started reading through Genesis, and then you got to Exodus, and then you crashed and burned in Leviticus and gave up. You're going to love James. If you've ever said, man, there's just too big of words, too confusing, James says exactly what James means. He doesn't mince words. It's 5 chapters, but it's some incredible, rich stuff that he begins to unpack, but just in very, very simple language. So have been walking through this book, and we're in James chapter 2 today. Now, here's what I know about people in general. People in general, when there are certain phrases or words mentioned, they can rally around those phrases, those words, regardless of their backgrounds. So I'm going to say a few phrases, and if you connect with one of these phrases, what I know about you is you can connect with other human beings around these words, and you don't ask how much money they make or where they went to school or where they live or their faith background, because there's a commonality around these words that you unite around. So for instance, if I said the words Harley Davidson, I got an amen right here on the front row. Thank you very much. So for many of you, you're going, Mr. Davidson, is he a new TV guy? And so if that's you, you have no clue what I'm talking about. Harley Davidson, whether you're young or old or rich or poor, you get in a room with people, you can talk about Harley Davidsons. And it doesn't matter what type of bike that you ride, as long as it says Harley Davidson on the side, you can relate to that. If I said another phrase, if I said these words, Little League Baseball. Little League Baseball, whether you're a player or a coach or a parent that yells at the coaches, not the players, or a grandparent that try to hold back the parents from yelling at the coaches. You can relate. You can get in a room, and it doesn't matter whether it's rec league or travel ball or what park you're playing out of. If you get in a room and you have a commonality around Little League Baseball, you can talk and you can find unity, and it doesn't matter how much money they make or where they grew up or went to school, you rally around Little League Baseball. Or if I mention this television show, Fixer Upper. You could get in a room, and it doesn't matter your background or whatever, you can get in and talk about Chip and Joanna Gaines and how you love them, and they're so funny, and you would dress yourself in shiplap if it were socially acceptable. Now, you could get in a room, and it doesn't matter your background, your age, your stage, your race, your denomination. You get together and go, whoa, we love Fixer Upper and Chip and Joanna Gaines. And so there are commonalities, and they're there, and you go, we rally around that. But if I said these words, Sunday morning church gatherings, yeah, nobody amened or applauded on that one. It causes us to pause a little bit, because in your mind you're going, okay. Is it a big church? Is it a small church? Is it a medium church? Is it a contemporary church? Is it a traditional church? Is it a modern church? Does the preacher wear a suit and tie? Does the preacher wear blue jeans? Does he wear a suit and tie with blue jeans? And do they have coffee? And what kind of coffee? Is it Starbucks coffee? Is it the cheap coffee that they want to make you think it is Starbucks coffee? And what kind of music do they have? Is it a band, or is it rock and roll? Or is it old hymns? Or is it choir? Or is it orchestra? Is it no instruments? And so all of these things go into our thought process. And what do the people look like when they're coming there? Are they rich? Are they poor? Are they educated? Or are they uneducated? And we've turned this idea of a church gathering into going, as long as you look like me, sound like me, talk like me, dress like me, and act like me, then we can go to church together. But the church started off completely different. In fact, Jesus said something completely different. And I just want to remind all of us what Jesus says and how he views people, and we're going to look at the most famous verse in all the Bible. And if you're a father and you're a fan of golf and basketball, last Father's Day was an epic moment for you. And you got to lay on the couch and watch like 10 hours of golf and of basketball. And I was one of those fathers that did that. And I was laying there on the couch and watching the U.S. Open, the golf tournament. And I don't know how this guy gets in these shots. Somehow he does. But they're filming a guy's putting on the green. And there in the background is a guy wearing a bright green shirt that said John 3:16. And I lay there and I thought, hooray for our side. We got in there. And so John 3:16, I want us to look at it. And we're going to do a responsive reading together. Okay, so the words in blue you read. And then the other words I'll read. So John 3:16, put that up on the screen. And we'll read this together. And here's what it says. For God so loved that his one and only Son, that believes in him shall not perish but have. For God so loved the world. Not rich people, not poor people, not educated people, not uneducated people, the world, that he gave his Son, that whoever believes, not based off your church attendance, not how often that you pray, not how much you give, but whoever believes shall not perish, but they're going to get eternal life. And so this is what Jesus said. This is what he launched into. And then somehow over the past 2,000 years, we've gotten to the point where I say Sunday morning church gatherings, we kind of pause and hesitate. Because based upon your background, based upon what you've experienced, many of you have had negative experiences walking into a church gathering. In fact, let me just ask you, by a show of hands, how many of you have either experienced yourself or you've seen it done to maybe somebody that you invite, and that you've experienced being judged or a negative response based off of how you looked, act, dressed, did, talk, what you knew or didn't know about the church? Just by a show of hands, how many of you have experienced something? Look around, look at all the hands. Yeah, I'm in there with you. I'm in there with you. But it wasn't supposed to be that way. I mean, Jesus goes, for whosoever, for God so loved the world. But somehow, some way, we've put filter after filter after filter. And as long as you look like me, talk like me, act like me, dress like me, we can go to church together. And what James does is he completely shatters that notion of ranking and filing people based off of what they can do for you. So with all that in mind, if you've got your Bibles, James chapter 2, we're going to start in verse 1. And James writes this. He goes, my dear brothers and sisters, how can you claim to have faith in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ if you favor some people over others? In the sentence structure in the original language, what he's writing is not a possibility. James is writing as though it is happening there in the church. As though it's happening right now. He goes, so how can you claim to have faith when you favor some people over others? And then he gives them an illustration. Look at verse 2. For example, suppose someone comes into your meeting dressed in fancy clothes and expensive jewelry, and another who is poor and dressed in dirty clothes. If you give special attention and a good seat to the rich person, but you say to the poor one, you can stand over there or else sit on the floor, well, doesn't this discrimination show that your judgments are guided by evil motives? When you show favoritism and say, well, you can sit there because you're rich and you can sit there because you're poor, he goes, doesn't this show that your motives, they're guided by your evil intentions, which honestly lie inside your heart? He continues on. Look at verse 5. Listen to me, dear brothers and sisters. Hasn't God chosen the poor in this world to be rich in faith? Aren't they the ones who will inherit the kingdom he promised to those who love him? But you dishonor the poor. Isn't it the rich who oppress you and drag you into court? And this would be a rhetorical question that they would nod and go, yes. Verse 7, aren't they the ones who slander Jesus Christ, whose noble name you bear? Yes, indeed, it is good when you obey the royal law as found in the scriptures. Love your neighbor as yourself. But, and look at verse 9, but if you favor some people over others, you are committing a sin. You are guilty of breaking the law. And James, like I say, he doesn't mince words. He's not saying this is a suggestion. Gosh, guys, if you don't mind, could you not maybe show favoritism? It's not just an idea. It's a command going, if you show favoritism, it's a sin. It's a sin against the law of God. When you begin to rank and file people and going, I'll treat you better than you, he goes, it's just as crystal clear as going, it's a sin against the law of God. Or otherwise, let me say it this way. Treat people for who they are, not what they can do for you. Treat people for who they are, not what they can do for you. If you think about it, this really is the heart of why we begin to treat people differently, especially when it comes to wealth and power, because, well, if I treat you well, maybe you'll invite me to your lake house. Maybe you'll give me season tickets. Maybe you'll remember me for this job promotion. But when somebody else comes to us that they can't do anything for us, and in fact, they may need something from us, we go, you're going to have to take a second seat or a second position. In Genesis 1:27, it says that God created human beings in his own image. And if human beings are created in the image of God, then hear me carefully, there are no second-class citizens. There's just people. John 3:16, for God so loved the world, not certain classes or rich people or certain poor people, it's for God so loved the world. But how often do we begin to look at people through the filter of going, what can you do for me, instead of who are you on the inside? Here's a simple question to wrestle with. Do you treat people as stepping stones or gemstones? Think about it. When you think about your friends, your relationships, or people who walk through these doors, do you think of people as stepping stones or as gemstones? If you think of gemstones, you ladies, you're wearing them around your fingers or bracelet or neck or earrings, or they're precious. They're rubies, they're diamonds, they're emeralds, they're pearl. I mean, they're precious gemstones. They're stones that you gather and that you collect and that you keep and that you display. But stepping stones are only as good as the last one. And you're looking for something else. So you find a stepping stone, and the instant you don't need that one, you're on to the next one. And as soon as it served its purpose, you're on to the next one. And how often do we treat people like that? You're good for this moment, but the instant you're no good to me, I'm on to the next one. And the instant you can't provide what I want, I'm on to the next one. What James is saying is going, and this is happening in the church. He goes, this is happening when people come in, you're going, you can be here and you can be here. And James is going, when you do that, you begin to break the law of God. He goes, people are people are people. Let me illustrate what was happening this way. If you go back to verse 3, he says, if you give special attention and a good seat to the rich person, you say to the poor one, you can stand over there or else sit on the floor. Well, doesn't this discrimination show that your judgments are guided by evil motives? Meaning, you look at people and you begin to rank and file them. Now, if you got the playing card that you were handing the card, kind of hold it up and wave it at me so you got it. Okay, very good, very good. Depending on your church background, you have no idea what that is in your hand. Also, depending on your church background, you're very familiar with what you're handing in your hand. So if you look at the playing cards, all of you are handed playing cards. Now, here's what James says. You know, you weren't asked, do you want this card? You're just handed a card when you came in. So, and here's the illustration. So just by waving your card at me, how many of you in here, you are the jack, the queen, or the king? You're the royalty. Just by a show of hands. Okay, wave it at me, wave it at me. Okay. Be like me saying, great. If you've got a jack or a king or a queen, all of you can get up right now and sit on the front row. And if there's somebody sitting in your seat that's not a jack or a king or a queen, you can ask them to leave. And so all of you are that way. Now, let me find the real important people. How many of you have the aces in here? Let me see those. Oh, woo. Come on now. I see that's probably the highlight of your week that you got that right there. Okay. All of you, the people that have aces, I got good news for you. In just a minute, we're about to bring lazy boys out here on this stage. And you're going to sit up here with me. Now, that is the splash zone. I spit, but it's the holy splash zone. And you're going to be up here on stage. Now, how many of you are the 2s through the 10s? Just by a show of hands? Oh, the commoners. Well, we're going to need all of you to go sit in the lobby out there, if you don't mind. There's a nice feed out there, and we just kind of need you. We don't want you to mix with the royalty and the aces in here. And then last but not least, how many of you got the joker? You were dealt the joker just when there's one right there. Okay, one over there, okay. We're going to need you to go work in the 2-year-old room at this moment. But if you look at your card, you hold it up and just look at it, right, to where you can see it and everybody behind you can see it, right? So you're looking at them, and here's what we do. We often take people and go, okay, great, well, you're royalty, or you're the hearts, or you're the spades, the diamonds, or you're the aces. And we look at people like this, but hear me, and don't miss this. Here's how God views the world. We view it like this, but God goes, I view it like this. And they're all people. And I don't really care what society deems as valuable on this side. This is the way God views it, and going, you're all human beings, for God so loved the world, not for God so loved the kings and queens and aces. For God gave his life for the world, that whosoever calls upon him will be saved. Not as long as you're a diamond or a spade or a heart or a club. And what James is saying is going, listen, you treat people for who they are, not based off of what they can do for you. Jesus modeled this better than anybody. Several stories, but in Luke chapter 8, there's this fascinating one where Jesus is walking, there's tons of people around him, just as there always were. And this guy comes to him named Jairus, and Jairus was a local leader in the synagogue. Had a daughter that was sick, and he asked Jesus, he goes, can you come heal her? And Jesus goes, sure. So Jesus begins to walk to Jairus' house, and then all of a sudden Jesus stops and he goes, somebody touched me. And the disciples are going, yeah, Lord, I'm pretty sure somebody touched you. There's a lot of people around you. He goes, no, this was different. This power went out of me. I felt it. And so he stops, and there's this commotion. And then there's this lady there on the ground crying, and she had been sick, and she knew that if she could just get to Jesus and touch the hem of his robe, she'd be healed. And she was. And he looks down, and Jesus stops and says to the woman, he goes, your faith has made you well. Now, Jesus could have easily said, listen, that's good. We got to move on. We've got to get to the important person. Jairus is a person of influence and is a great networking. And so imagine if we could get our movement to him, how wide it could spread. But Jesus stops, and there in the moment, there is the person in need. Based off of who they are, not what they could do for Jesus. And how many times when people walk through the doors of a church, we begin to go, okay, are they rich, are they poor, are they educated, are they uneducated? What can they do for me? And Jesus goes, no. I died for the world. James is going, you treat people as people, not for what they can do for you. And if you've ever been categorized based upon your outer experience, it's a very frustrating thing, to be honest with you. Based upon what you look, the way you dress, the way you your hairstyle, or just the way you look on the outer appearance. When people look at you on the outer appearance versus who you are on the inside, it's a very demeaning, lowly thing. About a month ago, Brianna and I, we were out and about. I think it was a Saturday, and it was me and Brianna and the 4 kids. And we walked into this restaurant to eat, and there's a couple in front of us at the hostess stand. They were about to get seated, and we walked in. And when we walked in, we get the look. Now, it's a look we're very familiar with, because let me just tell you this. If you have 4 kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have 3 kids, you're normal. You're normal human beings. You got 3 kids. That's fine. When you have 4 kids, people are going, whoa, are they all your kids? And you're going, as far as we know, they're all our kids, Don't you have cable television? And then he was like, no, we don't. So, what do you... And so with all these weird things, they kind of put us in this category. And so we walked up, and there was the couple in front of us, and they got seated right there. And I walked up, and the host was there. I was go, hey, it's going to be 6 of us. We need 2 high chairs. She goes, it's going to be a 30-minute wait. And I'm looking around the restaurant is half empty. And I'm about to just say some unholy things at this moment. And I feel this tug on my shirt, and it's my beautiful wife, and she goes, remember, you're a preacher. I'm also a husband and a father of 4 very hungry children. And she goes, I got this. Now, Brianna, beautiful, sweet as can be, but she is a mama bear. And if Mama Bear gets ticked off, Mama Bear gets really, really mad. And so I could just see Rhiannon, she goes, hi. And the lady goes, hi. She goes, you can push 2 tables together, can't you? And the lady goes, well, I need to check with my manager. And Brianna goes, yeah, you're going to need to check with your manager on that. And so the lady goes back to her manager, and a minute later, and she goes, well, I guess we can push 2 tables together. And Brianna goes, yes, you can. And so we all marched back there, all 6 of us, and we destroyed the restaurant and the table, and we left. At that moment, and many of you, you felt that way when you've walked into a church. You walked in, you're going, whoa, all these people are wearing suits and ties, and I'm wearing flip-flops and a T-shirt and shorts. Or maybe you've walked in and you're wearing the suit and tie, but gosh, everybody else is wearing flip-flops and T-shirt and shorts. Let me just tell you, I don't care how you're dressed when you walk in these doors, just as long as you're dressed. I don't. We got the same policy as 7-Eleven, right? No shoes, no shirt. You're watching the live stream at home, okay? And when James is going, people walk in fancy dressed or poorly dressed, and the people are going, okay, you can sit here and you can sit there. We're going to treat you differently, not based off who you are, but honestly, based off of what you can do for me. Now, let me just speak to you just as my heart for this church. And just as I think about summer, we're nearly halfway through summer and the fall's going to be here. And I think about our community that we live in. And it's a great community. Forsyth County is, as you know, this is exploding with people. You can go down any road, you're going to see new subdivision after new subdivision. You're going to see brand new houses and roads being cut in. And I can just tell you guys this, that in the fall, there's going to be so many new people walking through our doors. Rich people, poor people, educated people, uneducated people, grew up in church, stumbling in here, still smelling like Saturday night. And they're going to walk through our doors. And here's my heart for our church. And I think this is the heart for our church and what I've sensed when we moved here. But I want it to be at a completely different level. But the heart for our church is simply this, is that every person that walks through these doors should feel like they're a part of our family. That's it. Every person that walks through this door should feel like they're home, should feel like they're a part of the family. Now, whenever I meet new people who come here to Mountain Lake, I'm a nosy person, and so I like to know things, and so I get to know them, and I always ask them, what drew you to Mountain Lake? Why did you like it here? I mean, we're in Atlanta. There's mega churches on every corner. Why come to this one? And in so many words, they all get around to these key words. They said it either felt homey, or it felt warm, or it felt like family. Homey, or warm, or felt like family. And that should be the goal of every person that walks through these doors. It's not if you don't look like us, talk like us, act like us, you can't be a part of us. It's going, are you a human being that's alive and breathing? Come on in. Right? We don't care how you look like on this side. We care how you look like on this side. We don't care what your background is, what your political view is, or any of that, where your neighborhood you live in. Are you a human being? Because if God cares for you, then so should we. If God cares for the broken, messed up, shattered souls, then how much more should the people of God, when God brings them through our doors, saying you're part of the family? And so I would just simply ask, what can you do to make the people walking through our doors feel like they're home, to feel like they're a part of the family? And maybe it's looking at them genuinely in the eye and shaking their hand and smiling. Because for many of them, that'll be the first genuine smile and handshake they've received all week. Maybe it's just at a door that's closed and you just open it up and you just welcome people in. And if our guest services people are going, well, you can't stand there, just go, Chris said I could, okay? Just grab a door and say, come on in, welcome to the church. You can have coffee, you put a name tag on and say, I'm so glad you're here, and you genuinely welcome them to the family. What does that look like? And if you've been coming here more than 1 week, guess what? You're part of the family. You're going, well, I haven't gone to the newcomers dinner. That's okay. You're grandfathered in as of this moment. Just come on into the family. Right? Because we got so many new people walking through our doors, so many kids and so many students, so many adults. Some are going to wear suit and ties, and some are going to be wearing shorts and flip-flops and a T-shirt. And we don't care. Come on in. You are part of the family. What would that look like? I mean, you can remember the first time you walked into a church, and you're nervous, you're scared, and you remember that first time that someone smiled genuinely? Like not that creepy church smile, like a genuine smile. I'm glad that you're here. Someone gave you a cup of coffee, someone held open the door, and that first time you felt like you're home. Gosh, imagine what would happen if when all of Forsyth County walked through these doors, they felt like they were home, the same way that you felt the first time someone welcomed you to the family. I saw this played out beautifully this week here at our church. It is at our summer camp, the best week ever. We had 300 kids here walking through these doors. Most of them were brand new faces, had never been to Mountain Lake or not regular Mountain Lake attenders. And I was there and I was walking, and when they came in here, they were divvied up by their grade and by their team colors. Blue team here, orange team here, green team there, different grades and everything. And they didn't divvy them up by schools, just kind of around. And I was listening to kids and watching them interact, and not once did I hear one kid ask another kid, so how much money do your parents make? Well, what kind of car dropped you off in carpool? Was it an Escalade on 20s? Was that yours? Did I see that out there? Like, do your parents, they have a lake house? Can your parents get a season ticket? Now, they didn't care less. What neighborhood do you live in? They looked at him and going, well, you're kind of my same height. We should be buddies. We're on the blue team together. We should be friends. And it was this genuine, they're human beings coming together and realizing that they're human beings, could care less about this side of the playing card. All they cared was like they were human beings who God cared for. Gosh, and imagine what would happen if our church began to say, the doors are open to all who walk in. And we remembered back to that very first. And sometimes people are messy. I'm going to leave them there. Somebody will get that for the next service. But imagine what that would be if people begin to walk in with the doors open going, welcome, you're a part of the family. I'll finish with this. And it's a story that I found this week on some guy's blog named Micah Murray that I was reading. And then someone reminded me of another story that was posted on the Mountain Lake Facebook page. And I read this first story, and I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes I get a little fired up. Sometimes it's tough for me to keep the happy pastor, preacher, calm demeanor face. And I read stories like this, and then I get fired up. And then I read a story like this, and I get super excited about what God is doing. So here's the first story I read. And it was just a story, this guy blogged and just captured anonymous stories of church experiences. And it was a story. I just moved 500 miles and had to find a new church. Trying churches has by far been the scariest part of moving. I literally shake as I drive into parking lots. Attending a bad church hurt me. It is hard to search for a new, safe place. Now, we just moved across country a few months ago. Many of you have moved across country. There's a lot of scary things about moving across country. Finding a church should not be one of them. Finding a church where you go, man, this is home, this is family. You shouldn't be shaken, but the truth is for many of us, that is that reality. How are they going to respond? How are they going to look at me? Am I going to fit in? If I don't look, act, talk, dress, smell like them, are they going to accept me? But then a week or two ago, this was posted on our Facebook page. And this is a story that brought a smile to my face. She writes, it was our first time at Mountain Lake Church today, and we loved it. We were greeted by many people. We felt very welcomed. That's you. She's talking about you, right? You're the people. Love the service. We will definitely be back. Who knows? We could be saying we're home. We're home. That's what we want people when they walk in. You're home. You're a part of the family. Yeah, but no. You're a person. We look at you from this side, not this side. This is the way we view people. This is the way God views people. This is what we care about. The fact that you are a human being, you are welcome here no matter what your background is. And we want you to know every time you walk through these doors that you are treated for simply who you are, not what we think you can do for us. Let me pray for us. With every head bowed and every eye closed, I'm fully aware that there's a lot of people with a lot of church baggage. And church may be one of the biggest reasons you've been turned away from the faith, but I just want to remind you, whenever Jesus called his disciples and talked to people, he said, follow me, not follow us. Jesus said, follow me, not follow the church or follow some people. He said, follow me. And I can tell you, I'm in the boat. You've been hurt by Christians or by churches, but I can tell you my faith is in Jesus, and Jesus has never, ever, ever let me down. And I don't know what your story is, but today I would beg you to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I know churches, I know Christians have hurt you, but I'm telling you, Jesus Christ is the one who will never let you down. In John 3:16, all who call upon him, whoever calls upon him, will have eternal life. And if you've never done that, I'm going to give you an opportunity right now. With every head bowed and every eye closed, I'm going to lead you in a very simple prayer of salvation. Nothing super spiritual about these words. It's just a confession of your heart. It's just what's going on and saying, you know what? I'm placing my faith in Jesus, not in a group of people, not in a church, but in Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and what he did on the cross for me. If you're ready to trust in Jesus and the finished work of the cross and the fact that God did raise him from the dead, repeat this very simple prayer after me. Just say, Lord Jesus, I know I'm a sinner. And without you, I cannot get into heaven. So come into my heart and be Lord of my life from this day forward. Thank you for my salvation. Amen.